Good evening, everyone. We warmly welcome you to Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies. Today we have the principles of Tantra as our new session, and the session is being taken by Sachin Sunil Kumar, who is a Kashmir Śaivism aspirant and a research scholar. He was actually a marine engineer who has left his job uh, because he fell in love with Kashmir Shaivism and he wanted to pursue more in the subject. And now he's doing his master's. He's also a very good research scholar. And those who have attended Saundarya Lahari will have already known about his expertise in his sessions. So I warmly welcome Sachin to take the session today. Welcome, Sachin.
Thank you, Sridevi. So I can see some familiar faces. This is my third session with Abhinavagupta Institute. I've done Saundarya Lahari. It almost took me around 2 months to finish. And then we had a very short session of one day. We were discussing the Shiva Shakti Avinabhava Stotra written by Acharya Abhinavagupta. And this is the third session. So here, actually, this is the basics. When we discuss Saundarya Lahari, I already discussed the 36 Tattvas for you to understand the principles of all the philosophy which is discussed in Saundarya Lahari. At that time, I told you this is the most important session within the Saundarya Lahari classes. So I hope you still remember the PDF which I have shown during that day. So we cannot actually enter or travel in the philosophy of Shaivism or the Shakta Tantras without a knowledge, a basic fundamental knowledge of these 36 Tattvas. So when I did a video before this, for inviting you to this group, I told you that it's almost like you're learning the alphabets before starting learning a language. So before you learn every language, you need to go through the alphabets. The same way, when you enter the world of Shaivism or the Shakta Tantras, you need these 36 Tattvas, which acts like the basic alphabets of this philosophy. Or else you will get confused with many terms which is used in this text. You won't get the exact steps to follow to reach the supreme, which is explained in that philosophy. So when we talk about these philosophies, it's the Tattvas are not only part of Shaivism or the Shakta Tantras. We have many such philosophies in India, especially when you see the Shad Darshanas, the Astika Darshanas. We have the Sankhya philosophy, we have the Yoga philosophy, we have Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta, and all. So all these philosophies will have some fundamental data which is to be understood before as a prior knowledge. So Sankhya is one of such philosophies which have got these 25 Tattvas. The 25 Tattvas of Sankhya are the basic stepping stones which will help you to understand the Tattvas of Shaivism also. So we'll go through the Tattvas of Sankhya and then we enter the world of Shaivism. A few years before, I came across a newspaper cutting where I saw that the alphabets in Malayalam language, I'm from Kerala, so the alphabets in Malayalam language is being reintroduced for the students of first standard. So I got surprised that I didn't know that they stopped this. I thought when I was studying in my school, we had to learn this alphabets as a prior knowledge before learning Malayalam. But in between, they stopped teaching this alphabets. And it was reintroduced a few years before. So it was a surprise for me. And the same way, when people try to learn Shaivism, they completely ignore these 36 Tattvas and they directly enter into the core philosophical texts like Paratramshiga, Vimarshini and all. You won't understand even a line. You will get the translations of it, but to understand to the core, you need all these 36 Tattvas. That's why we thought of introducing this class. And even if you have left some books behind, you try to learn some books in Kashmir Śaivism, and you didn't get any idea of it. After this class, you may try to read it once again so that you will get much more clarity of it. So I'll share my screen and then explain you about these. Let's have an introduction of these 36 tattvas. Hope you can see my screen now. So tattva, the term tattva is actually used to denote everything which remains in a particular state. So the word meaning is the state of being that. So we say manushyatvam. You might have heard of this term, manushyatvam. What is manushyatvam? It is the state of being as a human being. When you are in a state of a human being, it's manushyatvam. Manushya is human being, so it's called manushyatvam. So when we say tattvam, tat means that. So tattvam is the state of being that. So this explains, the 36 tattvas explain you how the pure consciousness, in Shaivism we call it as Paramashiva, or in Shakta Tantra we call it as Parashakti. Both are same. Either Paramashiva or Parashakti, or we use a term called Parasamvit. It's pure consciousness. So this 36 tattvas explain you how this pure consciousness descended itself to tangible or perceivable Mahabhutas, or perceivable, tangible objects. Every object which we see around us, which we receive or grasp through our indriyas, how this pure consciousness has transferred itself to become these objects which we see around us. This is the basic philosophy of explaining the 36 tattvas. When Kashmir Śaivism, it's actually the actual name of this philosophy is Śaivism, but to identify it geographically, we use the term Kashmir Śaivism, which is more famous now. So the Acharyas, the masters in this philosophy, named it as Śaivism, or they have called it as षडर्ध Shastra. Shad Ardha means the half of 6, which is again Trika. Trika means 3. So either they call it as Śaivism, or they mentioned it as षडर्ध Shastra, which means the science of the half of 6, which is again the science of 3. So it explains you how this pure consciousness, or Paramashiva, how it descended itself to form tangible Mahabhutas. So the first step of thought explained it as the pure consciousness, which is non-tangible, descended itself to 3 primordial states of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That's what I have marked through different colors here. Sattva is usually denoted by the white color, Rajas is red, and Tamas is black. So this pure consciousness descended to an intermediate state of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which are 3 qualities, or 3 bhavas, you can call it. And then this is an intermediate state. And then it descended to a more tangible way of Panchamahabhutas, which are Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. This is a mere understanding, a rough understanding of how this transfer happened. So this, which we have shown at the bottom, the Panchamahabhutas, Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha, is the more tangible, perceivable state of consciousness. And in the center, we have the intermediary state of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And this, which I have shown on the top, is the pure consciousness. And you might have noticed this arrow, which I have marked in white and red. That is denoting Shiva and Shakti. So usually we denote these philosophies with some rupa or with bhava, which is color. So Shiva is always represented with the color of white, and Shakti is represented with the color of red. So that's why I've split this arrow into 2, and one side is Shiva and one side is shown as Shakti. it gets descended into the form of an intermediary state or a bridge called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and then into the state of Pancha Mahabhutas, which are tangible. We can get an idea of it with the help of our Indriyas. This philosophy aligns with mathematics. You see, the countable integers which we have integers from 0 to 9. Why we don't have an integer after 9, a single digit integer after 9? We have a 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the rest is the combination of all these. If we need 10, we have 1 and 0. It's a combination of 1 and 0. We need 11, it is the combination of 1 and 1. Like that it goes. So with this philosophy, you can explain max with this. This is 0. And from 0, 0 has got two things within that. But according to the philosophy of Shaiva and Shakta Tantras, Shiva and Shakti are the same. You cannot separate Shiva and Shakti. So this arrow, which has got Shiva and Shakti in a Samarasya, in the state of Samarasya, is considered as 1. And we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And rest everything, every object which we see around us, the universe which we perceive around us is a combination of these 9 things. Pure consciousness, the 3 gunas of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and the Pancha Mahabhutas, which are Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. The same way which we discuss about the numbers, every object in the world, every object in this universe is a combination, permutation and combination of these 10 things. The Parasamvit, or the 0, Shiva Shakti, which is 1, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Bhumi. So in India, we used to say that Indians discovered 0. Puja was discovered by the Indians. The idea of 0 came from this idea of consciousness. 0 is not nothingness or emptiness, it is completeness. In our philosophy, emptiness and completeness are the same. That's why we have this 0 in this shape. It's engulfing everything inside. When you add every positive integer and negative integer, you get the sum as 0. It includes everything within itself. That's why we have the Purna or the Puja. It's the same. Emptiness and completeness is the same. It's not nothingness, it's completeness. And that completeness is Parasamvit, or in Shaivism, we call it as Paramashiva, or in Shakta Tantra, we call it as Parashakti. And let's elaborate this. I told you this is a rough thought of how the consciousness descended itself to the Mahabhutas. And if we elaborate this, we get this structure. And what we are discussing is almost the philosophy of Sankhya. So in Sankhya, the 2 major things which Sankhya discusses, Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti and Purusha are the 2 major things which Sankhya philosophy is discussing. And why this philosophy came? Why was Sankhya introduced into the field of darshanas? Because the human race inquired about how to get rid of the 3 dukkhas, the 3 sorrows which we have. So we have gone through every darshanas, every philosophy, and still we couldn't come out of these dukkhatrayas, or we call it as tapatrayas, which are 3 kind of sorrows, which are Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adhyatmika. These are 3 kind of sorrows which is discussed in our philosophy. So Adi Bhautika is a very physical kind of sorrow, which is caused by a physical thing or something which is not you. You went outside and a dog bit you. That is a Adi Bhautika kind of a sorrow. Your body is affected by a virus. You got sick with a virus. So that is all adi bhautika. It's a physical kind of dukkha which is happening upon you. And the next is adhyatmika. Adhyatmika means something which is caused by you alone. You were cutting some vegetables and you got a cut on your hand. That's caused by you. You were walking and you slipped and fell down. That is because you didn't walk carefully. That's caused by you. Someone had a quarrel with you and you had a kind of an ill feeling within your mind. That is adhyatmika. You are the reason behind that. And the next is adhidaivika, which is out of your control, like natural calamities, lightning, flood, drought, volcanic eruption. All these things which is out of your control is called adhidaivika. So Sankhya was Sankhya was introduced to give us a solution how to get rid of all these three dukkhas. Tapatraya, the mochana, or how to escape from these tapatraya or dukkhatraya. So for that, Sankhya explained all these. All the 25 tattvas in Sankhya was explained to tell you how to get rid of these three dukkhas. So let's see how Sankhya is going to help us to get rid of all these tapatrayas. So for that, Sankhya explains how we see or how we perceive the world around us. So we have 5 things, Panchamahabhutas, around us, which are earth, water, fire, air, and space. That is Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. This is the mere translation. I am reluctantly translating this as earth, water, fire, air, and space. The philosophy didn't mean this to be earth, water, fire, air, and space. It is Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. Now I'll explain you what are these Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. We have got 5 sensory organs. Every one of us who are born as human beings have got these 5 sensory organs. The Shrotra Indriya, through which we hear. The Sparsha Indriya or the Tvak Indriya, which is the skin, through which we have the sensation of touch. And then we have the Netra Indriya, through which we see. The next is the Rasana Indriya or the Jihva, the tongue, through which we taste. And we have the Ghrana Indriya, through which we smell. These are the 5 sensory organs which we have, through which every data which we have got, every knowledge which we have got, we have received it through these 5 sensory organs. There is no other data which we have got without the help of these 5 sensory organs. So through the Shrotra Indriya, we hear. What we take in is sound or the Shabda. So Shabda is the Tanmatra. The term which we use in Sankhya or the Shastras is Tanmatra. Tanmatra is that which we receive through our Indriya. So through our Shrotra Indriya or the ears. Ear is just an organ. Indriya means the Shakti or the energy which helps us to get the knowledge of sound, or the energy which is working in this organ of ear and which helps us to get the knowledge of sound. That is what we mean by an Indriya. So a person might be having a physical ear, but he might not have the capacity to hear something. So that's because he doesn't have the active Indriya which is present in the organ. So Indriya doesn't mean that it's just the physical organ which you have in your body. It is the Shakti or the capacity which helps us or which helps the Indriya to function or the organ to function itself to grasp a particular knowledge. So for the Shrotra Indriya, its duty is to get or to receive the sound or the Shabda Tanmatra. And through Shabda Tanmatra, what we actually receive is space. or Akasha. So to get the knowledge of Akasha, we cannot directly perceive Akasha. We need a Sukshma state of Akasha, which is Shabda or the sound. And our Indriya will receive the Shabda. You can see my cursor so that it's easy for you to understand. The Shabda is the subtle form of Akasha. Akasha is the Bhuta, and the subtle form of Akasha is the Shabda, which we receive with the help of the Shrotrendriya. And through Shrotrendriya, what we receive, the Bhuta which we receive is Akasha. Same way, we have the Tukindriya or the Sparshanindriya. And the Bhuta is Vayu. You see, the second one here is Vayu. The Bhuta of Vayu, the Sukshma, the subtle state of Vayu is called Sparshatanmatra. And this Sparshatanmatra, we receive it through Twakindriya or the skin. Through the skin, whatever we touch and identify, or the data which we take through skin is Sparshatanmatra, which is the subtle form of the Bhuta of Vayu. Similar way, the next one is Agni. The Bhuta is Agni, and the subtle form of Agni is Rupa or the vision. So this is Rupa Tanmatra, and we receive it through Netra Indriya, the Indriya which helps our eyes and all the necessary nerves, the retina, all the parts of eyes, the nerves which connect it to the brain, everything is being functioned with the help of Netra Indriya. So people might be having a physical eye, but it doesn't mean that they have the capacity to see something. For them to see something, they need the Netra Indriya, a proper functioning of the Netra Indriya. Then only they will be able to receive the knowledge of Agni Bhuta. And the next is Jala. The subtle form of Jala is Rasa, Rasa Tanmatra. And we take it through our Rasanendriya or Jihvendriya, our tongue. That's how we know the data of taste. And the next is Bhumi. And the subtle form of Bhumi is smell. Ghrana Indriya is what functions in our nose to receive this Tanmatra of smell. Gandha Tanmatra. So this is Gandha Tanmatra, which is a subtle form of Bhumi, and we receive it through the organ is nose, but the capacity or the Shakti which functions there is Ghrana Indriya. Now, let me twist this in a more clear way for you to get a more clarity of this. So what is Bhumi in fact? Bhumi is not mere earth. Bhumi is that particular data which we receive through our Ghrana Indriya as smell. Jala is that particular data which we receive through our Rasanendriya or Jihvendriya as taste. Agni is that particular data which we receive through our Netrendriya as Rupa Tanmatra or vision. And Vayu is that particular data which we receive through our Twakindriya, through the skin, the Twakindriya as Sparsha Tanmatra, the sensation of touch. And Akasha is that particular data which we receive through our Shrotrendriya as Shabda Tanmatra or sound. Now, is it making sense? Is it clear now? So now you're watching me, you can see me, you can hear me. I am made of Panchatanmatras. Whatever you see in this world is made of the combination of Panchatanmatras. Now, when you see me, when you hear me, which tanmatra present in me or which bhuta present in me is reaching you? You can type it in the chat. You are seeing me through your netra indriya. And you can hear my sound through your shrotra indriya. So, yeah, Agni. You can see my, or you can perceive my Agni. And what about the sound? When you hear me, yeah, that's Akasha. So I'm made with all Panchabhutas. My body, the gross body which you can see is made of Panchabhutas, but at this particular moment, you are getting me or you are perceiving me as sound and vision. But don't understand Panchabhutas. So I'll explain. The Panchabhutas are the fundamental things by which everything which you perceive, everything which you see, everything which you touch, everything which you hear is made of. You can call it as elements. So this is a state, Panchabhutas are a state at which we can identify things directly with our indriyas. Now, to understand it further, I'll explain you. Just imagine water. It's kept in a bottle, a plastic bottle of water. And imagine that it has got a brand name, common name which everyone knows. Imagine that it is Rail Neer, the one which we get in the train. So you have a sticker, a brand which is kept on the bottle so that you can identify that particular water bottle as Rail Neer. It's from the brand of Rail Neer. Now, till what extent or till what stage is that particular water identified as Rail Neer? Until it has got a wrap, a sticker upon that. If you remove that sticker, you can't identify it as Rail Neer. It's just a bottle of water. Till what stage you identify it as water? It's still the molecular level. You can see the physical form of water. You can touch it. You can taste it. You can see that. If you shake the bottle, you can hear the sound of it. So you are identifying water like Panchabhutas. Water is also made up of Panchabhutas. It's not just Jala. Water is also made of Panchabhutas. If you smell water, if water has got any smell, it means that it has got Bhumi. If you can taste water, it means it has got Jala. If you can see water, it means it is Agni. If you can touch and feel water, it means it has got Vayu. And if you shake it, you can hear some sound, it means water has got Akasha. You don't get confused. Since it is water, it is Jala. It's not like that. So till what extent you identify it as water is till its molecular level. It's H2O. Till it's H2O, the molecular level, you identify it as water. And go beyond, it is hydrogen and oxygen. It's not water. When you go to the atomic level, it is hydrogen and oxygen. Till what level is it hydrogen and oxygen? We started from Rail Neer and we have reached the level of hydrogen and oxygen. Till what level you identify it as hydrogen and oxygen? Still the atomic level. When you cross the atomic level, it is just protons, neutrons, and electrons. There is no hydrogen and oxygen there. It's protons, neutrons, and electrons. And again, I'm asking you the same question. Till what extent? If you go deeper and deeper, it's just vibrations. It's just mere vibrations. What you identified as Rail Neer, a packaged drinking water, is just a vibration. Spanda. Kashmir Śaivism call it as Spanda. Everything which you see around you is Spanda. It's vibration. But for you to identify it through your sensory organs, the first stage of identification is, or the fundamental stage of identification are the Pancha Mahabhutas. That's why it is relevant in the philosophy. It's the fundamental thing which you identify with the help of your sensory organs. And then comes the subtle state of tanmatras, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. And then comes a state of a session of karmendriyas, which I'll explain in the next slide. And then comes the jnanendriyas. All these 5 are jnanendriyas. The Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha, the Sparshendriya, Netrendriya, Rasanendriya, and Ghanendriya. These are the indriyas through which humans can only feel 5 bhutas. Yes. Humans have got 5 sensory organs, and that's why we have 5 bhutas. If an animal has got 6 sensory organs, it will identify or it will perceive the world as 6 bhutas. Now, Sankhya philosophy is meant for human beings. That's why we have got 5 bhutas. And the reason for that is we have got 5 sensory organs. If we had one more sensory organ, this won't be a prapancha, this will be a prashad. The prapancha or the universe for us will be made up of 6 bhutas. But we don't have it now. We have only 5 bhutas, and the reason behind that is we have only 5 sensory organs. And let's talk about the karmendriyas. And before that, let me talk about the antakarana. We have 3 things which we altogether we call it as antakarana. Now we took all these data from the universe. We have the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. We'll keep the discussions towards the end. So we have Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha, through which we identified Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. We have the data now. And what are we doing with this data? What are the indriyas doing with this data which it got from outside? The indriyas will feed the data to the manas tattva, the mana or the mind. Every data which the indriya receive is dumped in the manas. This is the manas. Manas is always a confusing state. It cannot take a decision upon the data. It's a confusing state. It says that whether I should do this or that. The thing which I saw this, is it this or that? So manas is always in a confusing state. It just receives the data, but it cannot make a decision upon that. And there is an entity which gives a solution for this, or an entity which takes a decision, and that's called buddhi. Buddhi is that part or that portion of the antakarana which takes a decision upon the data. So manas is that which receives the data, but it cannot make a decision. Buddhi is the one who will process the previous data and will choose a suitable decision according to the situation. Buddhi is not always going to make the same decision. It changes according to the situation. And that, how should I change it according to the situation? That's also taken as a decision taken by the buddhi. And there we have one more thing in the antakarana. The third part of antakarana is called ahankara. So the manas is the mind, buddhi is the intellect, and ahankara is the ego. Ego is not in a negative meaning. It's ahankara. We usually use ahankara in a negative way, but ahankara is a necessary entity which identifies you. Which ahankara is that thing which separates you from the outside world. So when you see your phone, you can identify that this phone belongs to me. And when you see someone else's phone, ahankara is that entity which tells you that that's not your phone, it's someone else. Don't take that. Because you have ahankara, you're not getting beaten up by someone else. You have this kind of a manners, and that manners is given by ahankara. Ahankara splits between yours and someone else. It is the basic understanding. Ahankara is where you identify yourself as you. This is mine. This is me. this is my body, this is the boundary which I have got, this is my house. Everything which is separating you and someone else is done by the entity of ahankara. So all these three, manas, buddhi, and ahankara, works together to take a decision upon the data which is received through the indriyas. And after receiving this data, after processing this data, buddhi is going to decide what to do. And that execution is done through karmendriyas, or the motory organs. We have five motory organs. The same way we have got jnanendriyas, we have 5 motory organs, or the 5 karmendriyas. One is vak indriya, which is used for communication. Now you are receiving me as sound. You are getting a data from me as sound, and the Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha has fed your mind with whatever I am talking now. And your buddhi is processing this. Mind cannot make a decision, so that the buddhi is processing the data, the live data which we are receiving from me. And suddenly you have a doubt. You came across a doubt, and the buddhi told you that this is not right. I'm just confused here. So you must ask this question to clarify. That decision is taken by buddhi. So you have decided to ask this doubt to me and get clarified. So you have started typing this in chat. That is a way of communication. So the indriya, the karma indriya, which is working there is vak. Vak indriya is the indriya which you use for communicating. Vachana. The function of vak indriya is vachana. And the next one is pani. Pani is for grasping, your hands, which we use to grasp something or to give something, to take and receive something. That's pani. Pada. Pada is the next karmendriya which you use to move around. You need to go from one place to another, you use pada. And to excrete, to eliminate every waste which your body doesn't require, is payu. The organs or the shakti which you use to excrete is payu. And upastha is the indriya or the karma indriya which you use for ananda or bliss. So this ananda, the nand dhatu, for every Sanskrit word there is a dhatu, a root syllable. So nand dhatu has got 2 different meanings. One is ananda or the bliss, and the other is vardhane. Nand vardhane means to procreate, to multiply or to procreate. So we identify this with the genitals. So that's why it has got 2 functions. We say the upastha is for bliss, ananda, and for procreation. So these are 5 motory organs, the karmendriyas, through which you react to the world. You have received some data and you have processed it through your antakarana, and through these 5 motory organs you react to the world. And Sankhya is saying that, why did we discuss all these? Sankhya, to escape from the tapatrayas or the dukkhatrayas, say that there are 2 more tattvas, prakriti and purusha. So whatever we have discussed now is prakriti. Panchamahabhuta, 5 fundamental bhutas, the panchatanmatras, shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha, the 5 tanmatras, panchajnanendriyas, panchakarmendriyas, and manas, buddhi, ahankara. All the 23 tattvas which we discussed till now, when we combine this, it's prakriti. The 24th tattva is the combination of all these 23 tattvas in Samarasya. So if someone asks you what is prakriti, it's the combination of all the 23 tattvas which came after prakriti. So prakriti is the mother of all these 23 tattvas. And in prakriti, all these are staying in equilibrium. It's in a state of samarasya or equilibrium. So in other terms, Prakriti is the equilibrium of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which we saw in the beginning, the intermediary state. So Prakriti is that entity where Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas is in a state of equilibrium. And the one who is a witness to this, one who is watching this and enjoying this is Purusha. Purusha doesn't mean that it's male. Every living being is a Purusha. And Sankhya is going to make you understand that Purusha is separate from Prakriti. So Sankhya gives a beautiful example to make you understand this. Pangu Andhavat. Pangu Andhavat is a term used by Sankhya to make you understand that Purusha is separate from Prakriti. You might have heard this story. There is a blind person and there's a lame person. So this lame person cannot walk, he cannot travel, but he can see. And there is a blind person who can walk. So they both met and came to an understanding that the lame person will stay on top of this blind one. So the blind one will be walking and the lame one will be sitting on his shoulders, and he will guide this person where to go. So they both started a journey. You can see a lame person, he's sitting on the shoulder of this person who is blind. So he cannot see the path. He's been instructed by the person sitting on top to turn left, to turn right. There is a river in front of you. There are thorns in front of you. Watch out. Every instruction is being given by the person who is sitting on top. So this blind person is walking by hearing the instructions given by this person. This is how Purusha is associated with Prakriti. Whatever dukkha happens to you is either happening to your body or your mind. Mind in the sense, mind, intellect, or ego. And you are not your body, you are not your mind, intellect, or ego. You are just a witness who's watching this, like the person who is sitting on the top. So this person who's walking is traveling through many difficulties, many hurdles, thorns. The path is too hot. Sometimes he needs to cross a river. So every difficulties in the path is being faced by this person who is walking. But since they have been traveling for a long, the person who is sitting on top is identifying himself as he's identifying it as a single body. He feels that when the person who is walking, when he steps on a thorn, it's not at all affecting the person who is sitting on the top. But they have become so close after walking miles and miles. This person got into a state where he identifies this as his own body. So when the person on the bottom steps on a thorn, the person sitting on the top is crying, "Oh, I'm walking on a thorn." But in fact, it's not affecting him. He's just giving instructions, or he's just watching the path. But after walking for so many years, he's identifying this as a single entity. This is what happens with us. We are identifying ourselves as this body or mind, intellect, and ego. So Sankhya proves with many examples, with many Shastra Siddhantas, it proves that you are separate from Prakriti. And then the next thought comes, is there something beyond this? Now we have escaped the three dukkhas. We know that all these, still Prakriti, there is dukkha. When you identify yourself as Purusha who is separate from Prakriti, there is no dukkha. So if we cross the state, is there something which gives us sukha or ananda? And then we cross the boundaries of Sankhya and we reached the plane of Tantra. We cross the 25 Tattvas of Sankhya to break the boundaries kept by Sankhya to enter the realm of Tantra. And when we crossed the 25 Tattvas, we inquired, what is the reason of us being Purusha? Why did we become a Purusha? And we identified it as the reason behind that as Maya. Maya is that Shakti or the energy which limits us to become Purusha. Maya has got 5 kanchukas or 5 tools by which Maya is limiting the limitless consciousness to identify itself as Purusha. So these are the 5 tools which Maya use to limit consciousness. One is Kala, or the idea of limited action. We identify ourselves as some limited being so that we cannot do many things. We cannot lift the entire house which we live in. We identify ourselves as within this body, we have got a particular energy, but we are not capable enough to lift this entire house. So that is the thought established by Maya, so that we can only do some limited kind of action. And the next is Vidya, or limited knowledge. We are limiting ourselves that we don't know everything in this world. We have some knowledge, but we are not able to get the knowledge of each and everything in this world. That limitation is Vidya. And next is Raga, or the desire. It reminds you that you are not complete. You need something else. That is causing a desire within you. Why do you have a desire? You think that I need that to be close to Purnata or completeness. I am missing out something, so that I need that. That is desire, or Raga. And next is Kala. Kala is time. In the philosophy of Tantra, there is no time. Time is not a reality. We are being trapped in the world of time. We identify time as past, present, and future. We cannot travel to our past. We cannot travel to our future. We are trapped in these 3 separations of time. This is the 4th Kanchuka, or the 4th tool of Maya. And the next is Niyati, which is the Kanchuka of space. We are limited to a particular space at a particular time. And that's why we have an experience. Now, the reason for you to attend this class is you are at this particular space at this particular time. If any of this is changed, you won't have the experience of this class. Just imagine about an accident. You met with an accident. What was the reason for that accident? You were present at that particular space at that particular time to receive that accident. If any of those 2 have been changed, you wouldn't have got that experience. So Niyati is that tool of Maya which limits you within a particular space at a particular time, so that you receive some experience. That is Niyati. So Maya is using all these 5 tools to limit pure consciousness, so that pure consciousness cannot identify its real self. So it identifies as Purusha, and after crossing Purusha, it identifies itself as ego, intellect, or mind. So there is a way, the pure consciousness, in Kashmir Śaivism, we call it as Prakasha. It gets reflected upon, falling upon Shakti or Vimarsha. So when we talked about the pure consciousness, the zero, I told you that there are 2 things present in Parasamvit, which is Shiva and Shakti. But Shastra says that we cannot separate Shiva and Shakti. Shiva and Shakti are the same. The only difference is Shiva is static and Shakti is dynamic. So if someone asks you what is Shiva, it is static Shakti. And if someone asks you what is Shakti, you can say that it's dynamic Shiva. So Shiva is the static form of Shakti, and Shakti is the dynamic form of Shiva. There is no difference between Shiva and Shakti. One is just static, one is dynamic. You cannot split between these two. When you talk in the terms of physics, you cannot split between energy and matter. If you have matter, energy is associated with it. If you have energy, matter is associated. You cannot split these two. I'm talking in the terms of physics. If in future we might find a solution to split matter and energy, but you cannot split Shiva and Shakti. The physical terms which I use was just for you to understand it in a mere physical way. But in the Shastras, we call it Shiva and Shakti, so that we cannot separate between Shiva and Shakti. So this Shiva and Shakti, which is present in the pure consciousness form or Parasamut. Since the Shakti is dynamic, now this part is a bit confusing. So I want you to pay your complete attention to this part. So this Shakti is dynamic so that it won't allow Shiva to get contained in this state of Parasamithood. Shakti wants this universe to be built. So that Shakti is pushing out Shiva from this state of Parasamit. And the first manifestation of Shiva coming out of this consciousness state of Parasamit is called Sadashiva. So every time I come up with some idea to explain these three states, Sadashiva, Ishvara, and Shuddha Vidya. So this time I'm explaining it in this particular manner. So Sadashiva is the first manifestation of Shiva coming out of pure consciousness state. And in Sadashiva, I-ness is high. I consciousness is high in Sadashiva. So this is a container. You imagine this as a container. We have a split, we have a separation here, so that it's been split into two. This side is Aham, which is I consciousness. This side is Idam, that consciousness. So Sadashiva is the first stage where I consciousness is superior. And slowly, when it passes on to the next state of Ishvara, we are taking this separation from the middle so that the water in the Aham side is quickly moving to the Idam side, so that this side is reduced and Idam side increases. So in Ishvara, that consciousness is high and I consciousness is less. So when we quickly open the separation in between, due to the force, the potential energy which is stored, or the potential energy. So due to that energy, the water is rushing towards the empty side, so that we will have a hike here. So the Idam side is higher than the Aham side. This is Ishvara Tattva. That consciousness is high. And we have, after a while, we have this settled down, so that Aham and Idam is the same. I consciousness and that consciousness is settled down to an equilibrium. I and that is the same. So this is how pure consciousness, which has got Prakasha and Vimarsha, or Shiva and Shakti within that, is descending towards building this universe. So the first manifestation of Shiva is Sadashiva, where I consciousness is high. And the next state is Ishvara, where that consciousness is high. And the third state is Shuddha Vidya, where I and that come to an equilibrium. And here Maya acts with its 5 tools, so that the Shiva, which was present in Parasamit state, got identified itself as Purusha, the limited being of Purusha. So this is how Tantra explained 11 more tattvas beyond Sankhya. So this is just an introduction of these 36 tattvas. The class which is going to happen for the next coming 6 days, we go through each and every shlokas, which explains the 36 tattvas in the tradition. So the tradition of Kashmir Śaivism has got 2 major texts. One is Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha, and the other one is Parapraveshika. So these two texts are the fundamental texts which explain the 36 tattvas according to the terminologies of the Shastra. Now, we have many classes going around which explains the philosophy, but there are very few classes where we go through the text, the original scripture of the Shastra. So our plan through this class is to go through the exact scriptures which our previous masters had learned, so that we learn the Shastra in its own language. That's going to make a huge difference. This is rarely being done now. Nowadays, we can see many classes going around. The philosophy is discussed, but we are not learning the Shastra in its own language. So, this philosophy of Kashmir Śaivism is, the people of Kashmir must be appreciated, so that after all these centuries, generations of invasion, and all these atrocities done to the people of Kashmir, we have this philosophy still preserved in its every might. So the people of Kashmir, they were ready to leave behind everything, but they kept this philosophy in their blood. India, this Bharat would have been a Buddhist country if we didn't have Kashmir Śaivism serving us in the border. These masters of Kashmir Śaivism has fought a philosophical war when the Buddhist Tantra came to invade India philosophically. This Kashmir Śaivism was like a, like a strong philosophical boundary which protected the philosophy of this nation. When they tried to compress or preserve this philosophy within Kashmir, it spread all around the Indian subcontinent. And when people tried to condense this philosophy within the Indian subcontinent, it spread to Europe and America. And this is the reason why our masters named it as Sanatana Dharma. It's the eternal Dharma which we are still discussing even after centuries. The 36 tattvas, these are the same tattvas which Abhinavagupta, Kṣemarāja, Somananda, Ulpaladeva learned 1,000 years before. And we still, it's relevant, and we are blessed enough to discuss these philosophies now. So in the coming days, we'll be going much deeper into these philosophies. People who came for the introductory session, this is enough for you. If you need to get just a rough idea, you need to read books of Kashmir Śaivism, Shakta Tantra, this is enough for you. But for those people who wish to go deeper into this philosophy and who wish to learn these things in that particular language which is used in the philosophy, you can join the sessions which is starting from tomorrow onwards. We have very less time. I have the same class in Malayalam going to happen just now. If you have any doubts, you can just raise your hands and ask very quickly. Yes, Aparnaji, please unmute.
Namaste, Acharya. What is the difference between Advaita and union of Shiva and Shakti, which is in Tantra? Vedanta
You're
talks about Advaita.
Advaita Vedanta.
Yeah.
Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate, the supreme being is Parabrahma, and there is no qualities for that Brahma. There is no Shakti associated with that Brahma. It's Nirguna Parabrahma. But in the philosophy of Kashmir Śaivism or the Tantra, we have 5 energies or the 5 Shaktis associated with the Supreme Being. It is Chid, Ananda, Ichha, Jnana, and Kriya. We have these 5 energies which is present in the Supreme Being. And these 5 energies are the reason for the creation. That's the difference. There is no Shakti in Advaita Vedanta. What keeps this philosophy unique is the presence of Shakti. And that same Shakti is acting as Maya. The inverted form of that same Shakti is acting upon Shiva as Maya. That is the difference between Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Śaivism. how I get Malayalam class link. Malayalam class is conducted by Tathagata Academy. I'll ask the coordinators of this class to share it with you. Just contact them. They'll share you the link. It's the same class, just the language is different. That's all. Gurupreet Singh ji, please unmute.
Sir, what are we going to learn in these 7 days? Can you give a brief description?
Yeah, it's the elaboration of the same thing which I told you. This is just the explanation of the 36 Tattvas, just the fundamental, the introductory session of the 36 Tattvas. Coming days, we will be reading the text, exact text of this philosophy, so that we'll learn the same 36 Tattvas in that particular language, which is which we use more in the philosophy, the exact language of Kashmir Śaivism. And the text name is Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha and Pratyabhijñāhṛdayam. Someone has asked which is the text name. Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha. We'll be reading the verses of Ṣaṭtriṃśattattvasandoha and Pratyabhijñāhṛdayam, and we'll be discussing the same things which we discussed now, a much more deeper. Yeah. So I think Dhyanesh, can you please unmute?
Namaste, sir.
That's the last question. It's already 8. Okay.
Yeah. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
You were telling there is this Purusha, and also there is the supreme consciousness, which is Paramashiva.
Yeah.
So is there any fundamental difference? Because Sankhya people say Purusha in himself is supreme, is consciousness, absolute consciousness. So what's the difference between that? And yeah, you are thoroughly, we are enjoying your class. Thank you.
So every philosophy has got a particular state to which it travels, and it doesn't mean that it gets finished there. You can travel much beyond this. Now I told you about the supreme being in Kashmir Śaivism, which is Parasamvit, but there is a philosophy which travels beyond this. And it will be very elaborate, so I'm not going to discuss it now. So in Purusha is, according to Kashmir Śaivism, Purusha is a limited being. It is just a witness of Prakriti. It is the bhokta of Prakriti. It doesn't have the freedom of birth and death. The Purusha cannot choose between birth and death. So what is happening there? The Tantra philosophy is going much beyond Purusha and explaining you what is happening there. How the supreme being beyond Purusha. So if you're joining the class, we'll discuss much more there. And if you're not joining the class, you can just contact the coordinators and ask questions, so that I'll send you answers through WhatsApp. That's all what I can do now. People from the Malayalam classes calling me, so let me join that. So thank you all for joining this session. We'll be continuing with such classes in future also. We'll have free classes coming in between, and also we'll have some paid programs. So see you all in the next class. Thank you. Namaste.